For a while, I was very hesitant to do a review of Etch because I didn't feel like I really knew how it worked. But now that I've used it for a few weeks, I am now confident to give Etch a full review. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is the UI. So when we first install Etch, we can see that we have a basic theme here. I mean, it's a very lightweight theme, and also it comes with the plugin. So over here, when I check my installed plugins, you can see here it's activated. Now, I just want to remind you that Etch is still in beta, so this is not the full version yet, but it is very, very solid. Anyway, so once you've done this, now you can go to your pages, and you can open Etch from pretty much any page. So this is where things get very exciting. When we first take a look at this, it looks very, very plain, especially on the sides here. It looks like nothing is really going on, but I like the fact that it comes to life. But before we go into how it actually works, let's talk about some of these buttons over here. So the first button here is your content hub. And as you can see, it's still in alpha. So when I click on it, it now shows me quite a few things here. We can see all our pages from here. Now, I really like this because I don't have to go into the WordPress admin dashboard to then, start working on my page. I can literally from here, just click on this little button here, and this opens up in the builder, just like that. So at any point, if I need to work on any page, all I have to do is to come over here, go to pages, and then I can just go to whatever page I want to. And if I need to delete any pages, I can also delete the page from here. So for example, this test page is gone. And in fact, let this one go as well. So you can see it's very, very easy to manage. Custom post types. Now, I haven't tried this out, but this is something that is also very, very powerful. I've heard Gary talk about this, and this is a game changer because it's going to be built into the actual page builder. So you don't need an extra plugin like secure custom fields or advanced custom fields or it's Metabox, I think. You don't need any of those plugins. Everything is going to be over here. So you can see we can literally start adding all the custom fields over here, which is really, really good. We also have our field custom groups here. If you're familiar with advanced custom fields, then you've definitely, what's going on over here. All right, so let's move on to the next item. Now, this is your media hub. So this is where all your images are going to be. Again, this is right in the builder itself, which is fantastic. The next one here is your templates. So this is where you get to create all your templates. Now I can see we have our 404 page here. And I'm pretty sure that they're still working on other pages or templates like the header and so on. Now this is the style manager. This is one of my favorite. Okay, so this is where you get to see all your classes. But what I also like is you can also add your variables here. So if you're building your website, if you are a developer, you know that in this day and age, there's no way you're going to be building a website without using variables and classes. So this just gives a nice place to really store them, and then you can reference them later on. In fact, I'm just going to copy one of these variables here, and I'll just show you how to use it later on. Okay. Next, we also have our loop manager here. So this is where we're going to have our loops, recent posts, nested JSON. I mean, this is quite a lot here. I mean, I still have to work my way around and see how this actually works, but it is very, very powerful. Now, over here on the bottom, if you want to go back to the editor, this is where you can just go back to your WordPress editor just like that. And this now brings you back into what? Into your normal view that you normally see when you use WordPress. Okay, so let's go back. Now let's talk about how this actually works. And the way it's laid out is, in my opinion, different to how page builders are out there. So you can see here, in fact, let's delete this. Now, did you see that when I clicked on this, now the whole builder comes to life? This is again unique to Etch, and no other page builder does this. So initially when you start, in fact, why don't we delete all this and start from scratch so I can show you the workflow. And I kind of like the way everything is structured here in terms of working with Etch. Now, we're not going to design a complete page, but I just want to put in a few information here on this page so I can show you how it works. So let's say you add a section. Now we all know what sections are. Next, we're going to add a heading, a paragraph text, and maybe a link. Okay. So with these three items here, we can't really just go in and start customizing. You see, we can't even go in and customize that. That is because there's actually a workflow behind this whole process, which brings me to the next part. So the workflow here is you need to create classes first before you can style that particular item. Now, this concept is for advanced designers. It's not for someone who's used, let's say, Elementor or Divi, because all the classes are defined for you by the builder. Whereas here, you have taken control to actually decide what these classes are. But instead of writing all the classes and customizing all of them, there's also a concept called BEM classes. So you can literally come over here, name your sections. So let's say this one here is our main hero. So we're going to call this main hero, for example. So every time you add an element on this page here, you need to name it. Okay, that is the proper workflow. So let's say I want to create classes now. I can just right click and create BEM classes. So now this is creating all my classes that I need. And right away, you can see that now I can add my classes in here. Now, I mean, do you see how easy that is? So over here, I mean, I was playing around with this and you can see my variable here has been added. And over here on the CSS, you can literally go in here and start typing, all the information you need right here. So let's say you want to add a padding to that. As you start typing, you can see here, padding now shows. I can say, okay, 2 rem, for example. And the padding has been applied. So now we can go in and start adding all the classes if we need to type them all out. So let's go background color. There we go. So here's our background color here, and I'm going to say red. And now you can see the red has been applied. Now it looks like it's a lot of work because I'm typing everything out here, but we can also disable and enable some of these panels over here. So over here on the left, you can see if we select our layout, I can literally go in here and start using this as a page builder. So let's say instead of 2 rem, I'm going to say 1 rem. Now, do you see that it's updated? And this is on the padding. I can do the padding block. I can do padding inline. I mean, I can do margins here. Let's say I want to add, let's say 10 rem. You can see my margin top has been added. So this is very, 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 very easy to use. Now, while I have this selected, now this is the heading. Now remember, I mentioned that they are variables here on this tab, right? I can now use my variables because right now, as we can see, my headings here use a clamp value, which means on different web sizes or screen sizes, the text is going to expand and get smaller based on the screen size. So this is why it's important to use these variables. So let's say you want to use one of these variables. I can just copy that. But of course, as you're typing in, you need to know what you're typing in. So I'm going to select this and I'm going to go to typography and I'm going to go to font size. Okay. So if I press enter, you notice now my variable has been added and it's VAR and then with the dash heading 2XL. And this now becomes my main heading. So as I'm designing this, I can also do a front end preview. So if I save it first and go front end, now I can see everything on the front end and you can see it is very, very clean. Now, there's also something that I noticed while I was using Etch, and that is it is super fast. I don't think there's any page builder out there that is faster than Etch at the moment. It is very, very lightweight, very, very snappy. And I think it's mainly because they don't have all these layers of modules and settings, all set to change what is on the main canvas. So I guess that has taken out a lot of the meat out of Etch to make it super lightweight and super fast. But the approach that Etch has for me is, I'm 50-50 on this one. And I'm 50-50 because I'm not a developer, right? I don't know a lot of CSS and I don't know a lot of HTML. I've just started designing websites using page builders. And because I had that comfort of not wanting to learn HTML or CSS, and I didn't even need this. I didn't even have the need for me to learn HTML and CSS because everything seemed so simple with a page builder. But as time went on now, I can really see the benefits of using an advanced way of building websites, which is using variables and classes. And the reason why I'm saying that is right now, as we speak, Elementor has introduced variables and CSS, and they even have a class-based system. Divi has also added variables in Divi 5. They've also added, classes. So the approach now is heading towards the advanced way of building websites as it was supposed to be. But this is miles ahead because you are literally adding the code as you're designing. Which brings me to the next point, which is if you design using Etch, basically you are designing. In fact, the example I can give to this is with Etch, it's organic. You know what is going into the food. You know what's going into the plant. But with the page builders, you don't really know because half of the work is done for you. Like, for example, I mentioned the classes, they are pre-selected for you. So this approach is organic. Now, for someone like me or for someone like you who's new to learning code, you're going to find this taking you much longer time to learn. But the moment you master how this works or how proper web development works, it's going to be life-changing because you can now use pretty much any, even if you go back to Divi, you'll start to see Divi in a different light because you know now where to customize with CSS and variables or HTML directly. Of course, you won't have the full view or the full ability to go in and make those changes because they're baked into the builder. But at least you would know where to go and where to fix things. So this is an advanced way of building websites. Now, let's talk about the pricing. The pricing may seem very steep, but here's the thing, and this is how I look at it. With Etch, or for anyone who's purchasing Etch, you have to have the mindset of building websites that are on a much different levels. So let's say everyone is designing websites on the BMW level, okay, or Audi level. With Etch now, the websites you're supposed to be designing are custom websites which are above the BMW and the Audis and the Mercedes. Now you're designing the Rolls-Royce of websites. So even if you purchase Etch with the current price, it may seem a lot, but now you are attracting a much bigger, client that is willing to pay a lot of money because with Etch, you are now designing websites that are easily maintainable, easily customizable, and also websites where you have the freedom to design pretty much whatever you want to design. And this is where the difference is. Think of it as a custom built, one of a kind website because you're using a tool that gives you everything you need to make it super custom. The next thing I want to talk about here is components. Now, as you're designing, I've been looking at Tailwind CSS. They have a lot of components, and Etch has the ability to create components. And to me, this is really, really powerful because you can now sell the components, design them proper, and even sell them. And I was told that there's going to be a marketplace as well, which to me is huge. Imagine a marketplace of all these components that are designed really, really nice. I can see this becoming the standard for designing amazing websites for the future. So I can't even compare this with the current page builders because we're not comparing like for like. This is in its own league in terms of the approach to designing websites and the application of designing the websites. So it is a very, very, very powerful tool. For me personally, I would highly recommend it because this is going to future-proof you because WordPress is not going anywhere. I mean, it's massive. And this is the proper way of designing advanced websites, the proper way. But if you're someone like me who has invested in Divi and now you're starting, Etch, or perhaps you're coming from Elementor or whatever it is, I would say if you're a freelancer or you are a design agency, for those websites where you're charging the 10,000, 15,000, then I would use Etch. But if you want to design a quick website, which you're going to just, put together quickly, then of course you'd use Divi. Why am I saying that? For me, it's like, why would you use such a powerful tool that will take you a bit more time to do a lot of customization to build a website which you're going to charge £1,000? It doesn't really make sense. So you'd rather do it fast with that type of page builder. But if you're someone who wants to go into the deep end and just design high-end websites, then definitely this tool is for you. And in terms, like I mentioned before, the pricing, you can make your money back from your first project. That's how I look at it. And that's how I look at plugins. That's how I look at software. If you're serious about building websites, you can make your money back in a very, very short space of time. So overall, when I look at Etch, the workflow is fantastic. It all comes to, even selecting your items here. You go in, you select something, and then you come over here on the bottom, and then you customize it with your HTML and CSS. Everything is right here. We also have JavaScript. You can go in and work with JavaScript. So it is very, very easy to use. Now there's also extras, like for example, if you want a framework which is pretty much ready for you. In my case, I have automatic CSS. And, this again is pretty much has everything ready for you, all your settings for your grids, your auto grid, your sizes, your colors. It manages everything really well. So if you are serious about taking on Etch, then this is also something that you may want to consider as well, because it has pretty much everything that you need. You can see here the grid. This is your, grid 1, 2. All these are all your variables. It has all your classes. Everything is pretty much, in here. So it is very, 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 very easy to use. All right. So that is my take on Etch. It's in my opinion, it is fantastic. I'll highly recommend it. And for someone like me who loves web design, I'm going to continue learning CSS because yes, it can be boring initially, but when you start understanding it, this can be really, really exciting. So I am now slowly going to start teaching Etch, and I'll be sharing my journey as I design with Etch. All right. Anyway, that's my view. I would like to know what you think about Etch. Have you used it? How do you feel about it? And what are your plans for it? Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.